big outlines are super fun, aren't they? Last time we went through the globe arc, the beginning of the end, as it were. This time we're finishing this thing if it hecking kills me. Let's do this. Season 37. This season begins with Jake getting possessed by a spirit that's only able to speak the word Kimi. The rest of the team is freaking out trying to figure out what to do when they figure out that the spirit is under the control of a new villain named Akukage, who immediately attacks the team. Akukage is able to control Jake through Kimi, and she has him attack the rest of the team, but she's stopped by the arrival of a new challenger. This is Eren Run. He has a gun, and he also has a spirit friend. Eren's spirit enters Jake and fights Kimi for control, while Eren fights Akukage with his gun. Eren's spirit then throws Kimi out of Jake, and Eren wins the fight, sending Akukage packing. The team is impressed, and once they catch Jake up to speed on what the frick just happened, they let Eren onto the team. That's right, for the first time in 14 seasons, we have a new member of the Lightning Speed team. The next bit is about Rose setting Reith up on a date and accidentally setting him up with a murder psycho. Thankfully, Mandy fixes things, and everything's okay, and there's definitely not children involved. The next bit after that also definitely isn't about Eren having to babysit said children on his own and Red attacking them and Eren having to defend them from Red. Nope, these children do not exist. Period. Anyway, the next bit is a big one. So Nias, now suddenly existing again, gets angsty for no reason one day and decides to go on a journey of self-discovery or something like that. With that, he ventures back to the reverse world, where he meets the man that was actually the chief of police before Perellis, Paravon de la Reese. Yes, he is supposed to be the reverse of Antius' brother. Thank you for noticing. He retired from the force because something about Nyla and gave the position to Perellis, and no one had heard from him since until now. Spooky suspicious, but Nias is too stupid to realize that. So Paravon says he can give Nias the self-discovery he's looking for, so he takes Nias back to his place, only briefly hinting that he has something to show him. Paravon takes Nias to a room sealed by a metal door, and new challenger hecking approaches. The room contains a single person, his arm chained to the floor. The person looks just like Nias, but his hair is jet black and his eyes are pink. Finally, after a bit of vaguing, it's explained to Nias that this other Nias is Nias' other half, also named Nias, because Nias is something called a fragmental reverse, which is a reverse that is split in two parts. A personality with a body that isn't supposed to exist, and a body with a personality that's not supposed to exist, and Nias is the latter. Paravon had actually kidnapped Nias' other half years ago and had been experimenting on him the entire time, and when Paravon reveals to Nias' other half that he wants to keep him there for another 15 years, Nias' other half goes mental, breaks out of his chains, and attacks both Nias and Paravon. To defend himself, Paravon shoots Nias' other half dead, even though reverse rules exist. I suppose past me didn't remember them, but that just lets Nias' other half take full control of Nias' body and kill Paravon. Most of all that I just said was detailed in one of the Not Jake origin stories, the one in question titled Imbalance. Now, though, is where things get super sketchy memory-wise. So, after Nias' other half finishes killing Paravon, he then races off to Ilya and tries to detonate a nuclear bomb. No, I don't know where he found a nuclear bomb. The Lightning Speed team stops him and he's arrested. That's when Paravon arrives, breaks him out, and drags him back to the reverse world for more experiments. But while they're there, Nias' other half ends up touching a strange stone, which brings Nias back to full consciousness. This stone was originally called Wisteria Quartz, even though it was always hot pink. Eventually, the name was changed to Fuchsia Light, which is much more fitting. Nias grabs the stone, gets away from Paravon, and runs away, going back to Ilya and ending up in the woods. In the woods, he meets up with Winona. Remember Winona? I have no idea what the heck she's doing here, but she's definitely here. So Nias ends up talking to Winona, and he spills pretty much everything that happened, and Winona wants to help him expose the entity they have dubbed Yang. And here's where my memory completely fails me. The next few points in my outline are Nias killed, Antius, plan, and exposure of Yang. But I can't for the life of me remember how they fit together. All I know is that Nias ends up getting a set of fuchsilite stones embedded in his hands, feet, and chest to keep Yang at bay, and now Yang is a ghost that can apparate to anyone and speak to anyone, and he lives in Nias' head and can't leave, and he's really resentful about it. Welcome to the party, Yang. We officially have all our Jakes. There's one more bit after this in Season 37, and once again it features Akukage, and it's super convoluted, and I don't remember much of it, so please bear with me. We're going through the outline points again. Dance. I swear this means another hecking school dance, and I'm extremely mad about it. It's the last school dance of the entire series, spoiler alert, but that doesn't make me any less angry. Also, I think all the girls were super into Eren. That's a thing I vaguely remember. Eren possessed. This is when Akukage busts onto the scene and has Kimi possess Eren and also steals Jake's soul in the process because the next point says Jake's soul taken, so there you go. She leaves Kimi with Eren and takes Jake as her new spirit slave. Rose plus Wreath capture. Oh, she does that too. Mandy transformed. Wait, how many freaking things does Akukage do before she yeets the frick out? Okay, so she transforms Mandy into something or another before she yeets out with Rose and Wreath and has Jake's soul, and Eren is possessed, so he can't freaking do anything, so there. Mandy now has to go out on her own and save the day. Escape to Antaeus' place. The first thing Mandy does is head to Antaeus to see if he can help her out, I suppose. Red's lesson. I swear these vague outlines are going to kill me. So I guess Red is also there, and he teaches Mandy something I don't hecking know what, and that's gonna help her defeat Akukage or something. Capture. And then Mandy gets captured, I guess? Giants. Akukage has giants as minions and has them attack because great. Oh yeah, Akukage in this episode was in possession of this weird Pandora's box-like book called the Mythica Codex, which could bring to life any mythical creature the wielder chose. That's why there's giants. Plan. So a plan is formed. Maybe? Go back. I am actually going to go back in time and slay myself for this. Akukage dies. So at the end of whatever the frick this was, Akukage dies, the day is saved, yippee. Eren also has Kimi removed from him, and Jake gets his soul back because of course that happens too. Then Eren decides to become the guardian of the Mythica Codex to make sure it never falls into the wrong hands again, and we never hear of it again. Mandy leaves. And so, after all this strenuous heroing, Mandy decides to leave the Lightning Speed team forever. Yes, you heard that right. Mandy's gone now. See ya. Season 39. Oh, wonderful. I'm missing a season. Isn't that just amazing? I suppose season 38 is just a lost cause then. So, I don't know what the frick I was doing, but not only does season 38 not exist, but season 39 starts with the Yang incident that I literally just went over. If I had a time machine, there would be blood on my hands before I straight up stopped existing. Anyway, after the reprise of the Yang incident, we finally have some new content. So in this one, Rose... Hold up. Oh my good gosh, this is out of order. Okay, so this is where my stuff just straight up stops being reliable, and we'll be talking about what's listed here as Season 40 before freaking off into no man's land. On that note, Season 40 is probably going to be mostly outline reading. So Season 40 is another story arc, and this one revolves around the premise of the dimensional continuum going absolutely nuts and tearing apart and everything is wrong. Rapid fire points here, we have Reverse War, Perilous Dictator, Nice Princess, No, don't ask, I don't know, Yang and Wreath in Spaceship, then Final Showdown with Warp, which is essentially the final showdown against the dimensional nonsense as an entity of some sort, with the subpoints of Wreath gets possessed, Tiny Jake, Jake defends, and End. I have no idea what literally any of that means, but I know that end doesn't actually mean end, because this still continues, and I actually remember some of this. Wreath ends up alone in the void, all alone after losing to the dimensional tearing, but he's actually not alone, and Flick shows up. Hello again, Flick. Flick explains to Wreath that because he was sucked into the dimensional nonsense, he's now a temporal anomaly, and he's never going to see his friends again. Wreath is super depressed about this, but Flick tells him he can just be a time agent, and everything will be okay. So Wreath decides to be a time agent with Flick, and together they defeat the dimensional nonsense and save time, and now there's another Wreath that exists separate from the time agent Wreath, and that's why there's a different Wreath in the Cannon Fire series. Literally, this is why. So yes, Season 40 makes literally no sense. Now, here's where we skirt into uncharted territory. Besides the stuff I had listed for Season 38, which absolutely was not in Season 38 whatsoever, none of the rest of what we're going to go over is written down anywhere, save for tiny bits and pieces. We are working pretty much completely off of my memory at this point, and things are going to be really disjointed and rambly from here. There's probably one event in the Season 38 section that I can definitively say takes place there, and that's an event where Nias does something super stupid. He runs out of contacts because, yes, he wears contacts, and he doesn't want to wear glasses, so he tries to turn his glasses invisible. It backfires horribly, blows up his entire house, and turns him invisible, so everyone thinks he's dead. Then, somewhere along the line, he ends up at this facility full of other people that have also turned themselves invisible, and they try to force Nias to stay forever, and Nias says no and leaves. And I think there was something about Yang in there too. Honestly, I don't remember. The Season 38 section also features a note that just says lava pipes, and I have no freaking idea what the heck that's supposed to mean, but there's a vague memory of something like that in my mind, and Nias is also the main character in that scenario too. Something about being trapped in a series of pipes meant to transport lava? I don't know. Besides that, there's one more thing that I can pretty safely say happened before the final arc, I'm pretty dang sure. Yeah, we're already closing in on the final arc. Isn't that incredible? So, there's this one event that I have images of in one of my sketchbooks. Essentially, Antaeus is kidnapped and Nias and Winona team up to save him. Did I forget to mention that Nias and Winona were dating by this point? It was pretty weird, all things considered. Anyway, they eventually find Antaeus in the hands of a group of angels led by, shock of all shocks, Scylla. Scylla tells them that the Angel Council determined that Antaeus was a huge hacking problem even though he really shouldn't have been, like, Red's still running around, you guys. So the Angel Council sent Scylla and a couple other angels to end Antaeus' life, but Nias and Antaeus and Winona fight them, and it's revealed that Winona is actually part angel, part demon, part human for no explained reason, and it makes zero sense, and they defeat Scylla and the other angels and save Antaeus. The original ending featured Antaeus revoking his demon heritage but getting to keep all his demon powers, because I don't hecking know how that works, but I quickly realized that was stupid, so that didn't happen. Funny that everything I remember between the dimensional rending arc and the final arc doesn't even feature Jake and the team. Freaking incredible. Anyway, we're finally here. This is pretty much the final arc of Lightning Speed 1 that we're going into. This is it. The final countdown, as it were. Although, in reality, this is less of an arc and more of a series continues as normal except we're somewhere else now kind of deal, much like the Gwyleth situation. So eventually, the interdimensional armies figure out how to dismantle the Technodome around the capital city, so they invade and kill the head Wonder Girl, and everyone has to get the heck out of Ilia again. This time, they end up in a place called Leota, and a city called Lombardus, which is regarded as an interdimensional safe haven. How they happen to look out like this is just straight up never explained. Anyway, Lombardus is where the entire rest of the series takes place. No joke, we're done with Ilia, it's gone. So in Lombardus, people get jobs. Jake gets a job at a Walmart ripoff called Save Deal, and Wreath gets a job at a bookstore that later turns out to be haunted because gotta torture Wreath with the ghosts some more. Aaron and Rose are still here too, but they're not doing anything. Also, the Villains League disbands, but Antaeus and Nias are like, nah, frick that, we're making our own new Villains League. So they make their own Villains League, and it's just them and Red because Red wanted to join too. Later on, they meet this thief that starts taking all their targets, and his name is Chardonnay, and he joins them too, and eventually they get jobs at this cafe run by a former Villains League member named Noir. Nightmare and Mallory are living together now too. Very early on into this arc, Rose meets this dude that can mind control people with his headphones, and he's a villain and he tries to kill her, but he ends up dying and Rose feels way too much sympathy for him, so she vows to continue his legacy or something because he said something about wanting to make music for people to make them happy before he died. So she leaves the team to play violin at nightclubs. I wish I were making this up off the top of my head, but I'm seriously not. This actually happened. With Rose gone, Lightning Speed entered an era I like to refer to as the Bachelor Party era. Essentially, it was just Jake, Wreath, and Aaron living it up as dudes and also getting into horrific escapades every Tuesday. Eventually, there's an incident where Mandy actually returns, but she's possessed by a plant monster and she tries to kill everyone. She's eventually defeated through I don't remember what means, but the entire incident actually ends up doing some pretty weird things to Wreath of all people. He actually gets a new set of powers because plant monster Mandy did a thing to him. He's able to transform into a plant form that has a crap ton of thorns and stuff, and he can make plants grow and he can regenerate and all that. But he can't use his telekinesis and he needs to wait an hour before he can change back or something like that. It was super convoluted, but there it is. I think after this entire thing, Mandy rejoined the team for a hot second before leaving again. I suppose I was just having too much fun with the bachelor party to let her stay. So here's where I'm going to talk about a bunch of bits that I don't really remember the placement of, but they definitely existed, so I'm going to talk about them. Getting the tiny insignificant things out of the way first, I can vaguely recall an event where there was a murder at the not Walmart Jake worked at, and Jake had to figure out who did it. I actually had one or two co-workers of his fleshed out as characters, but I can't remember who they were, so I can't talk about them now. There was also an episode where Perellis went mental again and Wreath nearly died, but his plant powers saved him. The circumstances behind that one elude me, but I'm sure it was nothing that actually made sense, so there you go. One of the weirder things that happened late in the series was this situation where Red was confronted by these other cloud people and told that he wasn't actually a demon, but instead belonged to their race, who lived in another dimension and worked as shepherds for literally zero reason. I have absolutely no idea where I thought the logic in this one was, but I believe I even realized how stupid it was at the time because Red remained a demon for the rest of the series afterward. The only thing that really came of this was Red getting a new pet besides the weasel he already had, because yes, Red had a weasel. His name was Rook. He still exists. Anyway, Red also had a sheep because of this whole ordeal, and his name was Sheepbert because I don't hecking know. There was a super melodramatic one where Jake was the only one at home because everyone else was out of the house, I suppose, and then Jake starts seeing visions of Timothy's ghost. Why? I don't know. I guess the torture Jake quota wasn't being met or something. Anyway, Jake gives Timothy's ghost some blueberry pie and he says thanks and leaves. After this, Jake seeks out Rose and talks to her about his guilt over letting Timothy die, literally years ago by this point, and he and Rose have a long talk about life, and Rose says that even if she's not with him, she still got his back or something sappy like that. Oh yeah, there was also this thing where Antius finds this book that says that the demons aren't really demons and the angels aren't really angels, and instead they're Demoras and Saralus or whatever, and it was a dumb cover-up that couldn't even do its own job right. I was so dumb. Now we get to the more important stuff. There was this incident where Morris comes back and tries to take over Palentia again, and Jake goes to Palentia to stop him, and Morris reveals that he's actually trying to kill Jake and dethrone his mother because he saw Jake's mother get together with another dude, and he's pretty sure that Jake and Jade were never his children, and Jake's mother has been lying this whole time, but he's also pretty sure that dude he saw Jake's mother with was also a monster, and that would make Jake and Jade monsters that would someday go out of control and destroy everything. But Jake's mother says that never happened, and something everything is resolved, and Morris stops being evil because nonsense. Yay! And then, there's the gremlin thing. So Nightmare and Mallory are dragged to the gremlin kingdom so Nightmare can do gremlin things, but Nightmare figures out there's this big conspiracy that's going on, so he calls in Red and the three of them do some investigating, and Nightmare figures out that the elders have been pulling the strings of every single king and they plan to brainwash Nightmare into doing their bidding. And they also killed his mother because she planned to rebel against them and they figured out about it and had her killed. With that, Nightmare confronts the elders and they have this huge fight. Oh yeah, I also have some note lying around that says Jake was involved in this fight too, except he was on the side of the corrupt elders for some reason I can't remember. All my note says is that he's doing it to resolve a pride issue, whatever the frick that means. Anyway, the fight goes south super quickly and Mallory gets killed and Nightmare gets so pissed that he kills all the elders and also nearly kills Jake. But he spares Jake because Jake feels super guilty about the entire thing, but Nightmare and Jake basically have bad blood with each other for the entire rest of the series after that, and I think Nightmare just leaves the Gremlin Kingdom to rot without a king after that because he's so pissed off. And now we talk about the bird. There was one last character to join the team, and this happened because a bird army invaded Lombardus and the one defect from the army joined the team to keep the birds from taking over. After that, Bird Boy stayed on the team for the entire rest of the series. His name was Ray Tace, and he treated Jake like his senpai even though he was rather pissy and rude a lot of the time. Essentially, Ray was Wreath 2 and was pretty much unforgivable. Thankfully, his tenure wasn't long because he came so close to the end that he barely actually did anything. Then Aaron left, because there was this whole thing about Aaron remembering he's not actually Aaron, and instead he's Aaron's younger brother who died, and Aaron let his little brother's spirit inhabit his body and erased his memory of it, and said little brother then feels so guilty about it before realizing that the spirit that's been by his side the entire time was actually Aaron's spirit, so he forces Aaron to take his body back, and then they leave on a journey of self-discovery forever or something. That's how Aaron leaves the series. Good he left before things got really bad, because now we're about to dive into Endgame territory. First things first, Gabe actually rejoins the team. Why Gabe? I have no idea, but he's here. I believe Rita was there too, but the only one I actually remember rejoining the team was Gabe. Anyway, shortly after this, Lombardus is attacked by this humongous monster, and everyone has to team up together to stop it from destroying everything. And by everyone, I mean the Lightning Speed Team, the Wonder Girls, the New Villains League, Nightmare, random members of the now disbanded Justice Team that returned for this occasion, Rose and Mandy, who also came back for this occasion, hecking everyone. The whole thing ended up having something to do with some convoluted facet of Ardenhurst's backstory. Remember Ardenhurst? Isabel's talking sword that just kind of didn't exist between season 1 and now? It was so dumb. Anyway, I cannot remember for the life of me what the entire thing was even about, but they have an epic final battle against the monster, and Jake ends up nearly dying when he's eaten by the monster, but he's able to kill it from the inside, and the day is saved and everyone celebrates. This was not actually the end of Lightning Speed. There was one more thing. One more thing that I desperately wish never existed. This is the finale of Lightning Speed 1, and I hate it with every fiber of my being. In fact, it was so bad that right after it was conceived, I was already looking to throw it in the garbage and never speak of it again. It happened though, and this is it. The very end of Lightning Speed 1. The whole thing begins with Jake deciding to go try to fight the interdimensional armies to try to get Ilya back. For whatever reason, he's doing this on his own because nonsense. He loses badly and ends up having to retreat. He ends up in the abandoned former Villains League place and angsts about his life for a while. Actually, let me clarify. He ends up in an abandoned bar in the abandoned former Villains League place and angsts about his life for a while downing a crap ton of alcohol. Then, in his drunken stupor, he suddenly remembers his evil dictator self from Season 9 and decides to just do that. Yes, he just suddenly has the power to kill all the interdimensional armies and become an evil dictator. The gang in Lombardus catches wind of this and is like, what the heck? So Gabe and Rita go to scout things out and Jake freaking slaughters them. Rest in pieces, Gabe and Rita. Then the others are like, okay, this needs to stop. So they go and fight Jake and nearly die, and there's also something about Jake kidnapping Rose somewhere in there and trying to force her to marry him, and then Rose finally gets through his thick skull and he's like, wait, what the frick am I doing? Then he just stops being evil. Freaking wonderful. It's extremely clear why I wanted to very quickly disown this entire debacle. Anyway, since Jake destroyed all the interdimensional armies single-handedly somehow, Ilya is now saved and everyone can return home and live happily ever after. And with that, after 40+ seasons, Lightning Speed 1 came to a close sometime in September of 2014. I can't believe I actually made it through LS1. I'm astonished. We're still not done with this retrospective, though. Next time we get into what exactly happened next.